Let's have a evaluation of Part B of our recent assessment task. Part B was worth 10 marks and it had two components to it. The two components were: one, using a line graph format, students are required to look at the table and plot the heart rates at set time frames in a line graph. The part 2 was analysing a change of energy systems that would be occurring for Taniela Lasalo during a rugby league match at a specific time frames given. The dot points that were being assessed here was the energy systems, the 3 energy system, the lactate system, the ATP-PC system, the lactic acid system, the aerobic energy system. And then the other dot point obviously was the major component, was the analyse each energy system by exploring the source of fuel, efficiency of ATP production, duration that the system can operate, causes of fatigue, byproducts of the energy system, the process and rate for recovery. So they're the things we were looking at in this assessment task. If we look at part 1, or question 1 of part B, that would be the first area there where we'd need to look at, and the first part of that is to do with the table. The table, or the line graph we'd be looking for would be something along these lines to get 2 marks. Most students got 2 marks here, where it was simply the x-axis was the time frames that were of the 42 minutes of the first half of Taniela Lasalo's rugby league match, and then the y-axis was the heart rates. Now this referred to this table here, obviously, which had each of the time frames, the 6 time frames, made up of the 2-minute increments, and outlining what the heart rates were for each of those 2-minute increments of the 42 minutes. And the 42 minutes was made up of possibly some extra time and some stoppages. That's why there was 42 minutes in that first half. And it's interesting to see we've got the maximum heart rate of 197 beats per minute, and that's a result of Taniela's age being 23. So just quickly back to that graph. If we have a look at that graph again, to get 2 marks you need to present something along these lines, and as I said, most students were able to do so. So that was the first part. The second part of the question excuse me, asked us to analyse the interchange of the energy systems that would be occurring for Taniela Lasalo during the rugby league match at the specific timeframes given. So in this part, again, we will have a look at what the Board of Studies tells us in regard to what an analyse or an analysis is. It means that we need to identify the components and the relationship between them, draw out and relate the implications. So we need to look at how each of those heart rates, what effect that has upon the energy systems that are used, and how they interplay with each other, how they interact with each other as a result of the information we're given there. A crucial thing that, again, we needed to look at was the information that Mr. Brennan put up with regard to this. And if we're able to refer to this little table, the ATP-PC system, 10 to 12 seconds of duration, 95% to 100% of maximum heart rate, the lactic energy system for 30 seconds to 3 minutes, and again, the maximum heart rate of 80 to 95%. That's what we're looking at there for that lactic energy system. And the aerobic energy system is 3 minutes, and it also has an endless at low intensity, and it operates between 60 and 80% of maximum heart rate. If you're able to use that, apply that to the previous information that we had on this table, then you're well underway of being able to do a good analysis. Strong answers were able to give us some aspects of each of those and describe how each of the energy system works, and in particular, I think we needed to be able to look at the terminology that needed to be able to do this. the correct terms, some terms that we would hope that we would be using would be things like interchange or interplay between the energy systems. I would hope that we would be talking about ATP. Hopefully we would be able to talk about intensity levels, submaximal, maximal intensities. Maybe some terms like resynthesis would be some of the things that would be discussed in the analysis of these the heart rates that were presented. If we have a look at a couple of better responses, we can see in this response, there's firstly clearly pointed out, we've got the graph up above there, outlines each of the time frames. It talks about percentages of heart rates, and then goes into what system's being used at the various minutes of the match that are presented to us here. So there's a bit of a system that was put into play. There was discussion of what the heart rate was, what the consequence of that heart rate, or the analysis in terms of what energy system was used because of the intensity of the heart rate, and then some discussion about how that energy system was used and resynthesized. The other really important part that got students good marks was the ability to use relevant examples to back up what they were saying. So whilst you didn't have to have a deep and thorough knowledge of the game of rugby league, you needed to be able to match intensities of exercise or activities that were taking place in the game to the energy system that was being used, and that would back up what you're saying there. For example, an explosive movement like a hit up or a strong tackle would have been used in regard to one of the anaerobic energy systems, probably the ATP-PC system, but specific examples that related to what the energy system that was being used. The comment here I've made in terms of terminology is really good. Elias has made sure he's used correct terms throughout. And again, if you look at, he's talked about what minute, he's talked about the energy systems being used and how that is relative to the game that's taking place. Interesting, during the game that was predominantly the lactic energy system that was being utilised. There were 3 occasions of the aerobic energy system, and there was one stage where the ATP-PC system was being used. If you were discussing, as long as you could back up what it was you were saying, so there may have been some variations from person to person about when and how the interchange of energy systems occurred, but as long as you could back that up and discuss it with its relevant examples, that was the important thing for us to remember there. If we have another look at another type of response, this is from James Eunice, and again the clarity of how he has presented that is really pleasing. He's used a different coloured pen there for us, ink, for us to see that. And again, there's a set system. Well, he's created a little system here that allows us to understand that he has an analysis. He's provided discussion of what the energy system is based on what the heart rates are and what that maximal heart rate does and where it puts it in terms of the reference to the energy system. The examples are very clear and relevant to what James has said throughout. So again, if I could give some advice to boys who maybe didn't get the top band marks, make your answers clear. Make sure that you have firstly looked at what the key term is and have an understanding of what that key term wants you to do or requires you to do. In this case, was analysis. So that was to draw out the implications between that. The implications were based on the heart rate and what it meant for which energy system was used and why it was used at that particular time. Look here, James has got interchange. His lactic energy system. It's very clear and easy for me to recognise that he understands what he's talking about. He understands what the task is requiring us to do. He's using the correct terminology and relevant terminology and backing up with examples. So, boys, generally, all in all, it was a very well. I was impressed with the knowledge that people showed in their answers. It demonstrated that most of you have an understanding of what the energy systems are and how they interplay and how they work. The better answers were able to show that clearly and show that with greater ease for me. But generally well done.